The Cincinnati Reds have an opportunity this week to keep these good times rolling. We're going to tell you what it is on today's Locked On Reds.
You are Locked On Reds, your daily Cincinnati Reds podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into the Locked On Reds podcast. My name is Jeff, his name is Steve, and we are glad that you're alongside us here today. Locked On Reds is part of the Locked On Podcast Network. We are your team, your Cincinnati Reds, every single day. Steve and myself are lifelong Cincinnati Reds fans, and we've been podcasting about this team for a combined 14 seasons now. And on today's show, we are going to get into a little bit later on your questions and your comments as trade deadline season is beginning to warm up. Lots of things to discuss in that realm. We'll definitely jump into that later on in this live show. Spencer Steer should play every day at this position. We'll talk about that coming up in a few minutes. But I want to begin with the huge opportunity, the big chance that the Cincinnati Reds have these next couple of days against the Minnesota Twins, because it's twofold. There are two big things that the Reds really need to take advantage of against these Twins. I'm going to start off with what those are. The two big things that the Reds have here, Steve, is the fact that they are facing three right-handed pitchers back to back to back. The second part, and we'll unpack the pitching matchups and all that stuff in just a moment, but the other part of this is that they got to take advantage of this because the Brewers and the Cubs are playing each other. So one of those teams is about to lose a series. Whatever that is, if it's 0-3, if it's 1-2, whatever it is, the Reds have a chance to at least gain a game on one of those teams, so long as they take care of their own business against a Minnesota Twins team that is crazy up and down. This team started off the season really bad, and then they went on this crazy winning streak, and they're like on top of the AL Central, and now they're kind of on a downslope again. So what version of the Twins do the Reds get? Well, they got three right-handed pitchers going against them starting up tonight. I did just see that the Reds have a lineup. Matt McLain back out of the 2 spot. He's hitting 9th today. Gavin Lux hitting 2nd, which I don't know that I hate so much against a right-handed pitcher here, but it's time for this lineup to build on the momentum that they really got going in Detroit.
Well, this is what we asked them to do. I'm going to keep hitting the points that this team is doing exactly what we said it needed to do during this time period to remain relevant. And they're just ever so slightly, in the most frustrating ways possible, I don't know how this is even a thing, Jeff, exceeding our expectations. Just
they're so frustrating.
Oh my God. They drive me crazy sometimes, but no, you're absolutely right. This gives the Reds the opportunity to run the best version of themselves out there each and every day, gain ground within the division, gain ground within the wild card. This is a big time for the Reds right now. 3 consecutive series wins, an opportunity to make it a 4th, heading into a division rival over the weekend. Now is the time to get things going and continue to keep things going here at home. Interesting question posed to me. And I want to take a little quick side journey for a second while I'm thinking about it, Jeff. I made a comment after the Detroit series about how I thought this team profiled well for Comerica, the way Comerica is set up. And someone commented to me on the YouTube channel, there's Steve lobbying to push the fences back at Great American Ballpark. Maybe that's not a bad idea. I hadn't really thought about it in those contexts, but if this team won't go get boppers, why don't we make it harder for the other team's boppers to hit home runs? I'm just saying.
It'd be a lot of fun. It would be. But to get back on this series here with the Twins, I find it very intriguing too, because where the Reds face the Tigers, who really love to employ the opener, really love to use the left-handed pitcher for the first inning or so to mess with the strategy of the opposing manager, the Twins aren't even really in a position to do that, nor do they do that. They have not used a left-handed pitcher as an opener so far this season, and most of their bullpen is right-handed. Now, I will say they got to get up early. This lineup needs to go early against these starting pitchers. You're facing David Festa tonight, who's got a 4.76 ERA, and he's a right-hander. You got Bailey Ober tomorrow, 4.4 ERA, and actually the Reds have hit him kind of well in the past. Fingers crossed on that. And then you got Chris Paddock On Thursday, right-handed pitcher, 4.3 ERA. All of these starters, they're not bad, but they're not good. And the Reds need to get up on them quick, because if you get deep into this game and the Twins have a lead, you're going to see Juan Duran. And Juan Duran is probably the third best closer in the league. Like, if I know Emmanuel Clase struggled this year and all that, but I think that it's Clase, it's Edwin Diaz, and it's Juan Duran as like the best closers in the league right now. So you're not going to want to put the Twins in a situation where they can bring him into the ball game to hold a lead.
And just to be clear on the opportunities this creates, Jeff, if the Reds can go out there and do well in this series, you're right. The Cubs and the Brewers are facing each other at the same time. We kind of all
Can both those guys lose? Can both teams lose all three games?
We have to root for the Brewers. We have to cheer for Chuck's guys up in Milwaukee.
Honestly, whoever loses it benefits us. But yeah, I guess that'd be nice.
Well, I just looking right now, the Brewers are 5.5 back. The Reds are 7 back of the Cubs. So the ideal situations for the Brewers to beat up on the Cubs. Everybody gains ground, and then we try to figure out how to take it against the Brewers at some point in time, someday. So for me, got to root for Yelich.
Oh, it's going to be interesting, but that's why this opportunity is so big for this team. And think about what the lineup has done in Detroit. They scored when they needed to. Again, I get it. Friday they kind of got their brains beat in a little bit, but they responded well on Saturday, and they had the clutch at bats on Sunday. Build on those clutch at bats. Momentum is a tough thing in baseball when you're talking about game to game momentum, but it feels like what this Reds lineup has really started to put together. Steve, I saw something the other day, and I know that we like to harp on, you take out the big game against Baltimore, the big game against the Rockies, and the big game against Texas, and all of a sudden this lineup is a little bit pedestrian, but ultimately they are one of the top 10 teams when it comes to runs scored so far this year. As down as we've been on them, they've actually been pretty good.
I agree. They've been pretty good, and people don't get to use that filter. This is what I'm saying. You can't tailor. You can't cherry pick. It's like saying if the Dodgers hadn't signed Freeman, Ohtani, Betts, and blah, 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 they wouldn't be as good either. Well, they did, and they are. And the Reds did score those runs, and their lineup is one of the better lineups right now. And you don't get to cherry pick it. It's, we'll call them out when they're bad, and we're not going to lean into a fake narrative when they're good. So I like their ability to score runs in bunches. What those big games actually do show is contained in this lineup is the ability to score runs in bunches. This lineup has also, to your point, shown an ability to score runs early and fast, and a lot of them. So you're right. In this Twin series, that's exactly what they need to do. They need to go out there, they need to beat up these starting pitchers, they need to get into the bullpens, score early, score often, score Elly so he can go start the All-Star game. That's what we're doing.
Yeah, talk about hot. Like, let's see if we can make it 5 games in a row with a home run for Elly De La Cruz. He's bumped his baseball reference B-WAR up to 2.6 now. He leads the team once again. He's right where he should be, on top, and he gets to play left-handed, at least for most of this series. I'm expecting at some point the Twins will bring in a left-handed reliever to turn him to the right side of the plate, but he's going to be able to play from his strong side, which is going to be interesting to see. Can he really just play on that advantage a ton on this Twins pitching staff? And I think that we will see a big series from him. I kind of hope to see that.
Are you taking the Elly parlay today?
The only thing about that is, and I love the Elly parlay, but the only thing about that is he hasn't been stealing bases at the same clip as normal. And I don't know if that's the hamstring, and they've just found an avenue that he can play without aggravating the hamstring, but he still ran the bases well. It's not as if he's not running. But I wonder if they're just kind of holding it back, taking it easy on the stolen base here. But that's the only reason that I have a little bit of hesitancy with the Elly parlay. Maybe we tweak that a little bit. Maybe we change the stolen base to like an RBI thing or something like that, because he is becoming a legitimate middle of the order lineup guy.
There's another guy on this team, Jeff, that's becoming legitimate, and that is Spencer Steer is becoming a legitimate infielder. We're going to talk about that coming up next.
Get the supplies you need from the site that's made for the skilled trades, Supply House. Whether you're in plumbing, HVAC, or electrical work, Supply House is the reliable way to order products online. Their easy-to-use website is packed with helpful resources and the latest product info to help you get exactly what you're looking for to get the job done right. Plus, they've got a complete inventory of over 200,000 parts from over 400 top brands, so you know you're getting exactly what you need, delivered fast from coast to coast. And for trade pros looking for the extra edge, their free Trade Master program offers exclusive perks like a dedicated phone line, free shipping, and discounts on every order. There are thousands of skilled professionals that are already taking advantage of this program, and now it's your turn. Join the Trade Master program today at supplyhouse.com/TM and start ordering plumbing, HVAC, and electrical supplies with just a few clicks. Plus, use promo code SH5 for 5% off your first order at supplyhouse.com.
Make sure you are subscribed. That way you don't miss a single bit of the great Reds content we've got coming your way. Jeff and I, Monday through Friday, here on the mothership, the Locked On Reds podcast. Tim Daniel after each and every Reds game with the Reds postcast, plus whatever little surprises we drop in along the way. Make sure you're subscribed so you get it all. All right, Jeff. Spencer Steer, legitimate infielder. Everybody was like, what? He is an infielder. He came up as an infielder. What are you talking about? Well, he's now probably the best infielder on the team at a new position, which is Spencer Steer should just play first base.
Spencer Steer should be an everyday first baseman. And while this may come as no surprise to a lot of people, I think this comes as the biggest surprise to Spencer Steer. Spencer Steer mentioned he likes moving around. He likes playing all of the positions on the field at any given moment in the season, but he is actually really good defensively at first base. I know for a fact he is very below average defensively in left field. I know for a fact he's not even worth asking about defensively in right field, and you're not going to put him in center. And then when you look at third base, he's only okay, slightly below average there. Steve, there is only one other first baseman that has more defensive runs saved in the major leagues than Spencer Steer. Matt Olson leads the major leagues with defensive runs saved at first base at 12. Spencer Steer has 6 and is in second place. He's even two defensive runs saved ahead of the third place guy. Like, I mean, that's how good he is. And defensive runs saved is a statistic, for those who don't know, that is an all-encompassing statistic that talks about range and it talks about the plays made and all this other stuff. So it's way better than fielding percentage. It's way better than other things. This is an all-encompassing stat that says Spencer Steer at first base, 2 thumbs up.
It's hard to argue with, especially given how well CES looked at third base, which is that might even be the bigger surprise for me, is how good he looked over there at third base. That really does free you up to just have Spencer Steer as your first baseman. You can rotate guys through third base /DH in conjunction with the catchers, and you've got a little system going now. Would it hurt my feelings if we never see Spencer Steer in the outfield again? No, it would not. But you have to take it how it comes, and that's how it came for him in a time of need. But let's get him back on the infield. I agree with you. The other piece of this, having him out there every day, is his bat has started to look better. Now, he's not quite there yet, but everything is trending in the right direction now. And these are the same signs we saw with Elly. These are the same signs we've seen with other guys, that it just took them a little while to get going. If you remember, Spencer Steer is yet another name on a long list of guys that either started this season banged up or completely covered in rust. So, you know, it has taken time for everybody to make their adjustments and right the ship. So for me, I'm starting to see signs that he's doing that as well as the other guys have. So start him every day at first base. I'm good with that.
Yeah, and I think, too, what Spencer Steer brings to the table is just delivering that clutch hit. Now, his clutch hits, you know, as he has started to emerge from the mire that was that slump to begin the season. His clutch hits have been singles, not extra base hits. So he's not going to light up a stat sheet with the OPS right now. He's not going to get anybody excited about his chances at the All-Star game or anything like that. But we're beginning to see exactly what we expect from him. And I think that when we look at this team the rest of the way, there's a couple of guys that we're looking at to be so much better than they have been. And he is one of the guys at the top of the list. It's Matt McLain, Spencer Steer, it's Christian Encarnacion Strand. And as long as CES stays healthy, I believe we will continue to see him just be super valuable for this team. But Spencer Steer has shown more value defensively than I expected. And so with that, that's offset a little bit of the deficiencies of the plate. And now those are starting to catch up too. And if that's the case, then we are talking about this lineup being a little bit more complete than it has been to start the season.
And you know, as far as his moving around, Jeff, there's other guys kind of in the way of him being and needing to be that super utility. You know, it looks like Francona's leaned into Santiago Espinal at second base if Matt McLain's not going to be there. It looks like he's leaned into Matt McLain at shortstop if Elly's not going to be there. CES at third base. Then eventually Candelario is going to come in and gum up the works, and there's not going to be room over there either.
Marte.
And Marte. Like, so really the need. So Spencer Steer's super utility thought process was really born out of just an absolute desperate need because the Reds had absolutely nobody else anywhere. That's really where the situation came from. That has improved. You know, we talk about things that have gotten better. That's one of the things that has gotten better. So, first base or bust. Yeah, that's kind of going to be his spot, I think.
And I think, too, the reason that he might still see left field is simply because of the lineup. And whenever Candelario and Noelvi Marte are back at whatever point that is, you will see better, you know, corner infielders and things about that. Yeah, please don't talk about the Candyman. He's coming back, guys. He's coming back. But I think that ultimately for the Reds defensively, a team that, quite frankly, even though they had a couple of games this past week where their lineup has gone, there's been some games that they've won because of their fielding, which is something that we hoped we would talk about. We didn't predict that we would talk, but we hoped that we would talk about it. And Spencer Steer is a big reason for that.
Yeah, wasn't even sure that was legal anymore to win a game playing good defense. I forgot what that looked like, to tell you the truth.
It's a great feeling.
It had been a minute. You know, interesting how sometimes things sidetrack. We'll circle back to Candyman. A lot of people have thoughts, and also on Santiago Espinal because, you know, Jeff, you didn't want to sign him, and he's been super valuable this year. So, you know, you're over on your player recommendations this year. You want to send Matt McLain down. You want to give Santiago Espinal away for a bucket of baseballs. Wait
a minute. Is this a Scooby-Doo thing? Do you got to take off your mask and you're Terry Francona telling me that he's one of the best hitters on this team? Like, what are we doing here? Like,
I'm pretty sure we're going to pull off your mask and find out that you're Gordon Whitmire under there is what I think is going to happen. But at any rate, oh, live shows, Jeff. You got to love them. You got to love them. All right.
But it's about time. Yeah.
It's about time to get into the questions and these comments, Jeff. Let's grab one before we get out of this segment, just because it's relevant to the conversation right now. Just from Jacob Bailey. Espinal has been super valuable for the team, plays all over the place, and can put the ball in play. Now, your point is taken, Jeff. Tito may have got a little excited when he said that Santiago Espinal was one of the best players on this team, but used correctly. And this is the key. This is the Francona difference. We've questioned at times, did it matter who the manager was? We've questioned at times, you know, what's the difference in firing David Bell? Santiago Espinal is a great example of what's the difference in firing David Bell, because Tito is putting Espinal in positions to be successful, absent a little bit of overuse in the number 2 spot in the lineup. But where he plays him defensively, when he plays him defensively, the starts that he gives him have all been on point to put Santiago in a position to be the successful guy that I thought he was going to be. Jeff was a little more doubtful, but came along for the ride eventually. I like how Santiago is playing. I think he was a super valuable extension, super valuable keep for the Reds last offseason. I had lobbied all offseason long to pay him whatever his number came up as and keep him around. And I'm really glad that they did.
And that is where we disagreed, because I said you don't give him whatever his number is. You got to get him on a value, and that is what the Reds did. The Reds got him on a value. His projected arbitration was something like $2 million more than what they actually ended up paying him. And I think that for me is why I'm okay with it, because I was not okay with the number that they were going to have to give him. And I think that the commenter had it perfectly said. He plays all over the place and he puts the ball in play. He didn't say he's one of the best hitters on the team. He didn't say he's one of the best gloves on the team. He didn't say he was more valuable than he is. He is a good utility guy to have on your bench. And that is who Santiago Espinal is. And I'm fine with him being that. It's when people expect him to be more is when I start having the problem with Espinal. But he's not one of the guys. I've seen some people made the point, like, get him off this rush. No. Garrett Hampson and Connor Joe need to go well before Santiago Espinal is even thought about.
Absolutely. All right, we're going to keep on with the questions and comments from you guys. You're driving the ship coming up next.
If you're running a business, you know that every missed call is money left on the table. Think about the last time you had a service emergency, like a burst pipe. If the first plumber didn't answer, did you wait? No, you called the next one. That's why having a reliable business line is so important. And that's why you need Open Phone. Open Phone is the #1 business phone system that helps you streamline and scale customer communication, all from an app on your phone or computer. Did you juggle 2 phones just to keep business or personal calls separate? Open Phone can solve that instantly. Open Phone is offering Locked On listeners 20% off your first 6 months at openphone.com/LockedOnMLB. That's openphone.com/LockedOnMLB. And if you have existing phone numbers with another service, Open Phone will port them over at no extra charge. Open Phone, no missed calls, no missed customers. If you can't watch us on YouTube, you can always listen to us on your favorite podcasting app. We're on all of them out there. Make sure you go check us out today. And when you're done with today's episode, make sure you go check out Locked On MLB Game Night. They watch every game every night so that you don't have to. All right, Steve, let's jump into some questions and comments here. I'm sure people got some thoughts.
We're going to start with a good one because I know this keeps coming up, and I'm just going to call it like I see it here. This from Zero Wave. Why do we still have Joe and Hampson on this roster? Why don't we give Hines more chances to develop? Here is the sad, ugly truth. The Cincinnati Reds have told us through their action and or / inaction, they've already made a decision about Rhys Hines. They have already decided that Rhys Hines is not in the long-term plans, is not in the long-term future of this team. They think he's a spare part, an emergency outfielder that can come up for a few days and then get sent right back down. That's who they've decided that he is. We've seen them do this before. When they have reached a decision on a player, this is how they treat them. This is the treatment that Nick Senzel got at the very end, if you recall, and he only returned to the big leagues out of an emergency. There was a bunch of injuries. They had decided he was going down, he was staying down. They were bringing up everybody but him because they had decided to move on. This is the same signals they're sending for Rhys Hines.
Which is weird to me because they haven't seen Rhys Hines that much. I like what I've seen on the whole from him. There's definitely some mental lapses at some point, but he's a rookie. It's going to happen with any rookie. And he's got way more power potential than either Joe or Hampson does. He's got a way better arm than either one of those guys has. And I think he's faster than either of those guys are. So I don't know why we aren't seeing him get more of a run here. The only thing I can think of, and the only thing that Hampson and Joe have on Rhys Hines, are that they've played in the major leagues for longer than he has. They have more experience at the major league level. But for me, that's a ridiculous argument based on how young this roster is and how much they're already betting on youth. So just keep betting on youth. Garrett Hampson has like a 400 OPS. Like, I didn't look at it specifically, but his OPS is tiny. It's indicative of somebody who deserves playing time over a potential middle of the order guy. I don't know that Rhys Hines could ever really be an everyday guy. I think he's more of a platoon guy, but against left-handed pitching, that right-handed power bat, you're not telling me you want to see him in the lineup? I would much rather see Rhys Hines in the lineup than either one of Hampson or Joe.
And yet they leave him in AAA. So ultimately Nick Kral's made a decision, and not that he'll ever explain it publicly, but I'm just as curious as you are, Jeff. I don't know how you can look at either Hampson or Joe and then look at Reese Hines and be like, these two dudes are clearly better than Reese Hines. I don't see how you make that proclamation. So unless there's something else cooking in the background that we don't know about, then it makes absolutely no sense to me at all.
Right.
All right.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
One last thing on that, because I was looking at this, his splits. So just looking at what he has done in AAA from May 1st through now. So like 6 weeks, basically. He's batting .315, and he's got 20 strikeouts to 10 walks, and he has 4 homers. I get it. AAA is not the same as Major League Baseball, but he's telling you that he's better than a AAA hitter. And so you got to see what you got at the major leagues with a guy like that. I don't know why they're not doing that.
All right. This from Aaron. Aaron says, longtime listener, first time viewer live. Hi, Aaron. How you doing? Says he loves the show. Goes on to ask us, are we all in now for the season? As far as the Reds are the Reds all in? This is what the question is, Jeff. And if not, what did the Reds need to do to be all in? I think you and I, let's do it like this, Jeff. Buyers, sellers, and you got to pick one. You can't ride the fence and play wait and see. You have to declare it right now. I would declare them a buyer, and that they are in a position now they could go out and get a something or two and really make a push to appear in the postseason this year.
I think, and I appreciate Aaron's question because I kind of see where he's coming from a little bit. We have been frustrated with this team overall this year, the way that they've played. But if you take our emotions out of it for a minute and just look at it from a 30,000 foot view angle, they're doing exactly what we said they should do. They're staying around 500 through this tough stretch of ball games and hopefully putting themselves in a position to really make a nice run before the All-Star break against the Marlins and the Rockies. So ultimately, yeah, I think they are a buyer. The thing that worries me, and we discussed it on the last podcast, was the messaging that Nick Krall had on MLB Network Radio, where he said,
get healthy.
Well,
we got to get
let's
healthy.
see what happens when Hunter Green gets the opt-out.
That's as good as a trade.
I'll say what happens when Austin Hayes gets out there. We have been saying, let's see what happens when Austin Hayes gets off the IL since opening day. So I don't understand. Like, where we are, we're all in. We believe that this team's a buyer. We believe that this team's in a good position. I think that they're literally going to wait until like the last couple of weeks before the deadline. Yeah. That if the Reds go on a run during that period of time, then they will make some moves. But if they don't, then they'll stand pat. And I hate that.
This from Main Street Duel. Marte wants healthy, not Marty. Marty's retired. Marte, once healthy, should be used as a trade tip. He's young, controllable, and would increase the value of a package provided CES still continues to do what he's doing. Here's the problem. Noelvi Marte's value is still as low as it's going to be low. He's been hurt, and I know you're going to point out, well, look how good he did. Guys, that was 19 games. He hit 294, 342, 515 over 19 games. Let's take a deep breath. His trade value could be there. All of those things are true, but not this season. All of those things can be done in an offseason after he's had a tremendous second half, and it raises his value to be a big part of a package. If you trade him prior to the trade deadline this year, it's low value. There's nobody is going to give you anything significant based on Noelvi Marte being in the package because he hasn't been able to be healthy. He's had the PED problems. He hasn't stayed on the field for a long period of time. I think the potential's there. We all think the talent's there, and we've seen flashes of it. He still needs to demonstrate that he can be on the field and do it over a long period of time to raise his value and have another team want to part with something good, which is why the Reds should be making trades now, want to part with something good that helps the big league roster.
See, now your overall plan makes sense, and I agree with it, but what you said there is wrong. I believe he does have value now because he's young enough that his scouting report is what people are acquiring. They are not acquiring his major league experience. So I still think he's got value. Now, I don't necessarily know that he's the kicker in a deal that gets you Jaron Duran or somebody like that. Like, would you say if it's Nick Lodolo and Elly Marte, would they get Jaron Duran? I would be interested in that, but I don't know that trade package gets it done. And that for me is kind of where this comes into play, because I think I see where Main Street Duel is coming from, and that he's saying, look, if we got CES and we got Spencer Steer, where is Elly Marte going to play? He's probably better off as a trade chip. My question is, what are they getting back for him? Because you're not just getting out from underneath of him. He's on a rookie deal. So, like, as long as you can keep talent on the roster, you might as well.
All right. I don't know about what this username is. It's Nose something or another. I'm just going to.
Nosferatu?
Nosferatu. Okay. Thank you. You know how I am with names. Mr. Nose asks, or Mrs. Nose, I don't know. Why do you think Krall announced to the public that they tried to sign Elly when Boris has said that they won't sign early? Here's why. They had an introductory, minuscule numbers conversation with Elly. They already knew where Elly was going to be. They get to now come to you and say, we have begun initial conversations with Elly. We're trying our hardest. We're going to see if we can get to something. We're far apart right now. There's not a lot happening, but we're trying for you guys. Fans, keep the faith. We're trying for you. That's what that's all about. It's PR. It's all about PR.
Yeah, I'm fine.
That's why Nick did it. We're glad they had the conversation. There's nobody on this stream right now that believes Elly's going to sign an extension. Really, I don't believe it. I don't think Jeff believes it in his heart of hearts. So they should have the conversations, because here's why the conversations are a little important, because I suspect, my gut tells me, that the structure of baseball is going to be vastly different after the 2026 season. I don't know what it's going to look like yet, but it's going to look a whole lot different. Most of these owners are going to unite in a way to prevent there from ever being a contract bigger than that $750 million contract that went out. They're going to make sure that never happens again. They're going to make sure that the Dodgers can stop buying all of baseball. Things are going to be done. It's going to be painful. It's going to be hard. It's going to take a long time. There's a work stoppage coming. And when that's over, under the new format, then you have an opportunity probably to sign Elly, because I see things more like they pull the best parts of the NBA system. They pull the best parts of the NFL system, and they try and lump them all together and kind of keep baseball from bankrupting itself somewhere along the way. So I think there's still a chance that the Reds can keep Elly De La Cruz long-term, but it's not going to be until after the new CBA gets all worked out.
You asked me, because we were talking about this the other day just through texting and stuff, that you asked me, like, what would I do if Elly signed an extension? And I still don't know the answer to that, because I don't know that I want to allow myself to even imagine it, because that would be amazing. It would be an absolutely wonderful day if the Reds surprised the heck out of us and announced a 8-year contract or something like that, because I don't think they'll ever sign a double-digit year contract again. But like a really long contract with Elly De La Cruz, I would lose my mind. I would feel like, and there's going to be a lot of people that make fun of this, but I would feel like the Reds just won the World Series if they somehow signed Elly long-term, because I just don't see it happening. Like, I am expecting it to not happen, so that when it doesn't happen, I will not be disappointed. I don't want to rain on anybody's parade with that, but I just don't see them working with Scott Boras to get something done, because Scott Boras has basically said in so many words, it ain't gonna happen early. He's gonna sign it when he wants to sign it, and he is far from ready to even discuss signing a long-term extension for Elly.
This from Todd, Bigfoot Wilderness Research. What does that look like? We need to find a separate YouTube channel for that. I want to know about Bigfoot Wilderness Research. Todd says, why not be a buyer and a seller? Trade for a power right fielder. And since starting pitching is in such short supply, trade Martinez for AAA outfielder, AAA outfielder. Move up the other prospects. You and I kicked this around, didn't we? A week or so ago, about trading a starting pitcher. But
I think you would need to trade.
This was during, right, it was the Hunter Green conversation that we had, right?
Yeah.
Like, if you could afford to trade a big gun to really bring in a big gun that would play every day, as far as a position player goes, and then fill the void, so to speak, from somebody that's up and coming. The problem I have right now is Wade Miley's already the Band-Aid in this rotation, and he's been fine in his 2 starts. He's done what they needed.
He's done what we expected him to do.
He's done better. He's actually done better than I expected him to do. So I'm good for Wade Miley, but Chase Burns is not ready. Chase Petty is seemingly not ready. We have some example of that, and some of it was unfair, but he didn't seem to be quite ready for prime time when last we saw him. So trading Nick Martinez, that you have to be able to answer the question, well, who gets those starts? Also understanding that right now Wade Miley is in this rotation. So who do you give Nick Martinez's starts to? Do you pull Graham Ashcraft back and hope that he can make it through the lineup 2 times and you get him out of there? Do you bring Chase Petty back up anyway and hope that he figured something out since the last time we saw him pitch here? What would you do, Jeff?
Well, and I think what Todd is describing here, I think almost is the ideal situation for the Reds front office, not necessarily from our standpoint, but looking at what they would save in trading Nick Martinez as opposed to what they would have to acquire money-wise in a trade for a bat. I don't necessarily know, though, that it makes a lot of sense if you're able to acquire the bat that you need without giving up one of your starting pitchers in the major leagues and then still go and trade that starting pitcher anyway. Like, I think the only reason that the Reds would trade a major league starting pitcher right now is if they're getting a difference maker in the lineup. And the reason that I say that is because Nick Krall has said throughout this past offseason that there were a lot of teams that were wanting major leaguer for a major leaguer. They weren't talking prospects. They were talking big league players. So if that feeling continues, that should not stop them from helping out the roster right now. But I don't believe that if they can avoid trading Nick Martinez to get the bat that they need, then they would still trade Nick Martinez after the fact.
Did we talked about this like in the context of a Devers trade with Boston, right? Is that's where we were, like somebody that could come in and be an
Jarren Duran. Yeah.
So it would have to be somebody big time. And I just
controllable, like, and that's the other thing too. Like, there have been people that have asked me about the Devers thing. Like, the Reds were never going to acquire that contract, even if Nick Krall happened to be on the phone with Craig Breslow at that point. Like, there was no way that the Reds were going to bring in a dude making $250 because he still has $250 million left on the deal, and that just wasn't going to be something that the Reds would eat. So I think that would be the ideal scenario where they trade one of their starting pitchers to get a young, controllable stud that makes the lineup better. It's got to be the perfect scenario, though. Like, I don't see them trading a major league starting pitcher for a prospect unless they believe that they're out of it. If they think that they are buyers, I don't believe that they will make a move indicative of being a seller.
Does it have to be a young guy? Like, what if Boston right now, because it looks like they might be getting ready to blow it up. What if Boston was ready to trade Bregman right now? Bregman's 31, 32 years old.
Like, probably going to opt out of his deal. So probably,
right.
I don't know that they're ready to blow it up though, because they're in a playoff spot right now. They're in the final wild card spot in the American League. As much as trading, and that's why it's so weird that they traded Rafael Devers, because they're actually in a good spot. So I almost wonder if anybody else on their team is even available. Where I would look, I mean, Bregman would be an interesting option there. I think for me,
because it's a rental. Because really, what I'm trying to ask you about is, would you be okay with them trading away talent for a rental in order to push for the postseason this year? Because you're right. Bregman would opt out, right? So
yeah,
that would be. So would you be okay if they did it that way?
Prospects, not major leaguers. Like, I'd have a hard time if they traded somebody from the major league rotation for a rental.
All right, let's dive back.
Unless, I mean, Bregman might be good enough though that I think I could overlook, because he'd easily slot in the middle of the order, either third or fourth, and this lineup would be so much better.
Connor Webster is ready to start a GoFundMe to keep Elly De La Cruz. That's kind of where we're at, gang.
Yeah, anybody with the amount of money to put that in, that'd be nice.
This is interesting. So Greg Pearson says, if they do sign Elly, be prepared for the haters to comment every time he makes a bad play.
Already do.
Now, this is, you know what this is? We're going to call this the Joey Votto treatment, right? Because that's
or the King Griffey Jr. treatment.
Or the King Griffey Jr. treatment, right?
Yeah.
You know, when you're the highest paid guy, there's some extra stuff that comes your way. I'm going to tell you, Cincinnati, I love you, but the way you treated Joey Votto up until towards the end there is criminal. The way that certain people affiliated with this team treated Joey Votto during his tenure in Cincinnati is criminal. I don't think it would rise to that level with Elly De La Cruz, where Joey Votto was a face of Cincinnati, not a face of baseball. Elly De La Cruz is a face of baseball, guys. He's one of the top 4 or 5 most recognizable players in the game right now. Mm-hmm. He doesn't give almost messed up there, Jeff. He doesn't care what the city of Cincinnati thinks about his brand. He knows what the world thinks about his brand. So will the haters hate? Yes, but it's not going to be as impactful as it was for Joey Votto because Elly has taken the world by storm.
No, and I think haters hate no matter what what market you're in, no matter what team you're rooting for. I mean, there's people that like to hate on Aaron Judge in New York, and if you can imagine that. And there's people that like to hate on Shohei Ohtani, which is hard to do because, quite frankly, he never doesn't not perform. But at the same time, there's haters everywhere. So it's going to be what it is. Like, if Elly gets signed, I already have like several Cincy shirts, Elly shirts. I will have several more Elly Cincy shirts.
It's a lot of shirts.
It's a lot of shirts.
By the way, guys, I've seen his closet. There's not room for more. Not only I wish someday we're going to do a tour of your office because, you know, they only see the part that's behind you. There's Reds clothes upstairs. There's Reds clothes downstairs. There's Reds clothes in the office. And that isn't even talking about the Bengals stuff. Like, Jeff has a very particular wardrobe, you guys. and as you can imagine, what's not sports, Reds and Bengals, is the other thing he's got on right now, which is Star Wars. So, all right, let's get some more of these. Let's get some more of these in here because I want to talk about. You take this one. Go for a second.
Okay, so Adrian asks, thought on Torkelson and making him our first baseman. Spencer Torkelson from the Detroit Tigers, making our first baseman and CES at third full-time and making Steer our right fielder if Steer's bat stays hot. And this is where I would say no, because I think that Spencer Torkelson has had a really good year, and I think that he would cost a lot because he's still pretty young. I know that I saw I think it was Charlie that was writing about some potential targets that the Reds could go at this trade deadline. And he mentioned Spencer Torkelson because he wasn't necessarily in the plans for 2025. He just got hot enough that the Tigers couldn't ignore him. And so they're making sure that he plays every day. I don't know that I love the idea of what it would cost to get Torkelson, and you're not making the outfield better. Spencer Steer does not make the outfield better defensively. He makes it worse. And I think that he makes the team better by playing first base. And so that is why I want to see Spencer Steer at first base every day. And I want to see the Reds go and get an outfielder. Unless they do a surprising deal for a guy like Alex Bregman, who then it's like, okay, we can figure some things out. But I don't expect that. I expect them to go out and get an outfielder that fits in defensively and does a good job in the lineup as well. I don't think that trading for Spencer Torkelson fixes enough, or it fixes more things than it causes problems with.
All right, that seems fair to me. You know, Spencer Steer in right field, I really question that arm out there. Like I mean, unless you're going to play Elly at second base to be the designated relay man, I don't know. I don't know how you make that work defensively. I don't see that working. There's a lot of we've really sparked some Elly De La Cruz conversation here. Sam O'Connell says Ellie's going to want $1 billion. That's the fear,
under
right?
the current economics.
I mean, under the current economics, that is the fear, which is why I really think, to expand my thought a little bit, not only do I think the Reds may have an opportunity after baseball reorganizes the economics with the next CBA, not only do I think that pertains to Elly, but look at the Reds. I think I said this last year, Jeff, looking at the contract structures and where we were and what was going on. I was kind of hypothesizing that the Reds have positioned to have almost no guaranteed money on the books after the 2026 season when this CBA ends. They're going to be basically clean slate, fresh start under whatever the new rules are. Whereas a team like the Dodgers, it's going to take a decade for them to be able to pivot to whatever the new rules are. So I think the Reds have...
I think the only two players that the Reds have under contract past 2026 is Hunter and Jose Trevino.
So for me, that's from a baseball economic standpoint, from a MLB / front office / ownership standpoint, it's kind of brilliant. And you won't ever hear me say that about anything else that this ownership group has ever done, but it's kind of brilliant in that they can attack whatever the new rules are. Now, will they? I don't know. That part, I don't know if the Castellinis will actually lean into it. But right now, the team's positioned good to be able to operate under whatever the new rules are. So
that's why I hold off on saying brilliant, but I want to see how they
and Ellie's team control lines up perfect with however this is going to play out. So time will tell, but the new system, I want to see what the new system is, because man, if Elly could be a career Red, if Elly could be a career Red,
I would like to see not necessarily the entire salary cap structure of it, but I would like to see the MLB contract negotiation setup look very similar to what the NBA has. And what I'm talking about is the max and the super max and all that other stuff, because there is a limit to how high somebody can make. It's a really high number. It's high enough that you're still going to be like, well, daggone, that's a lot of money. And it goes up on a yearly basis and things like that. But if you have a star player on your team and it's time for you to sign a new deal with them, the team can sign the player that is currently on their roster to what is called a supermax contract, which is higher than the player would get in free agency with any other team. So the player is incentivized to remain with his current team. Hopefully the team is providing him an environment enough with which he would want to stay, because you see plenty of times that guys demand trades and all that other stuff in the NBA. But at the same time, I really like it's known as the designated veteran player extension. But I like that idea, because if they adopt something like that in contract parlance when it comes to teams in the major leagues, then you really open up the ability for the Reds to sign Elly De La Cruz. And so that is going to be what I'm looking for the most in this next CBA negotiation, as much as that in and of itself just sounds like I mentioned how I'm going to watch paint dry. But quite frankly, there's a really good chance that if they get this sort of economic structure within the league, this Reds team could look a whole lot better long-term.
Let's get into some more of these. It's way back. I'm not going to be able to go back and find it, but I did want to talk about it. Somebody commented way back, Jeff, that TJ Friedl is kind of like the optimal leadoff hitter, like the quintessential. I forget what word they used, but that he's been really good in the leadoff spot. And he has, in fact, been really, really good in the leadoff spot. And you and I were talking during show prep about the all-star voting process and the way things are right now. And there is no question in my mind that TJ Friedl is an all-star right now. TJ Friedl has 2.2 WAR heading into all-star voting here. You look at his numbers, Jeff, and he's hitting 290, 384, 440. He's got 8 home runs on the season. He's playing both against righties and lefties in the leadoff spot and giving you a pretty good center field to boot. So how is he 20th, right? Like somewhere around there, 19, 20 in voting? It's terrible. It's just a tragedy.
And this stinks because, you know, we're in the realm that we could vote in the All-Star game stuff, but I hate fan voting when it comes to All-Star game. It's a popularity contest. It is not indicative of performance at all. TJ Friedl deserves to be in the All-Star game. He's been one of the best. In fact, and this isn't even like separating out position or league or whatever, there are only 14 players, period, that have a better on-base percentage than TJ Friedl does this year. He's getting on base almost 30 or just over 38% of the time. We're talking about Joey Votto-esque on-base percentage. And that is really impressive to me. I mean, his ability at the plate is really what's driving his overall value for the season. Defensively, he's not been amazing. He's been fine. But the way that he has hit for this team, his walk rate is 12.5%. His strikeout rate is 15.5%. Like, those numbers in and of themselves are so rare in this day and age. Like the number of guys that are okay with striking out, there's very few guys. Like Juan Soto is one of the few guys that walks more than he strikes out. TJ Friedl is very close to that threshold. It's amazing to see what he's done this season.
Debbie Brown says she's been voting for TJ and then follows it up with it will be all Dodgers and Mets. There was a year where like 8 Reds got voted in. I don't remember what year it was, but there was a year where like 8 Reds got voted in to start the All-Star game.
And like 2014 or something like that.
The commissioner changed the results. It was way back. Commissioner changed the results so that it was more balanced. It must have been in the 70s during the Big Red Machine. I can't remember when this was,
70s but or early 80s or something.
But to Debbie's point, it will be all Dodgers and Mets. It's a real problem for me. TJ, there's no way to make up the ground with TJ. Everybody voting is still open. Go vote. You can vote every day. Where you can make a difference is maybe we can get Elly De La Cruz in at shortstop. He's 4th place right now. You've got to overcome the Dodgers. And the problem with the Dodgers is that not only is it a giant market, so all of those votes are coming from there, but they have Shohei Ohtani. So all of the Japan votes are going to the Dodgers as well. So we're fighting a multi-front war here, folks. We have got to get Elly De La Cruz into the All-Star game. If he doesn't get voted in, he's going to be the guy they pick from the Reds, which is a shame because if he were to get voted in, maybe TJ Friedl gets picked as an additional representative from this team. I don't think they're going to take 3. I don't think they'll pick multiple extra players to come. So I would be satisfied if it was Elly and TJ. Maybe a pitcher gets in there, Jeff. I don't know if you're looking around the league, does Roberts pick a Reds pitcher? Does he take Abbott maybe?
Possibly. But you're right. Like that probably is one of those things in the back of his mind that, you know, if he as the manager chooses to add both Elly and TJ to the roster, he may overlook Andrew Abbott. And again, this just goes back to the whole process being silly. I think it's weird that it's all about popularity. And then you add in the fact that every team gets an all-star. Not every team has an all-star on it, but that's where we are.
Because who's Colorado sending is what I want to know. And shouldn't somebody
is pretty good. Yeah.
Shouldn't
Hunter
somebody
Goodman
in Colorado just go to a podium and be like, we waive our representative this year. It's okay. Somebody from the White Sox should be like, we're good. No need.
Right.
You know, somebody from the Marlins. We're okay. Next year. We'll send somebody next year.
The Marlins.
Because look, Sean Rickman says that Abbott is a shoo-in. If we're looking at numbers and doing what is right, yes. Right. We're talking about the Dodgers and Dave Roberts. It's not a shoo-in. He's not.
And if we were looking at numbers and doing what's right, TJ Friedl should be a shoo-in. But because of voting and all that stuff, and the fact that they lump in every outfielder, like it's not one of the 3.
It's not by position, right? And let me ask you this: do you want Andrew Abbott pitching in the All-Star game, or do you want him resting his arm?
Ultimately, I'm not the biggest fan of our pitchers going to the All-Star game, but
Me either.
I like the recognition that it brings on them.
I remember getting beat up over a particular closer of ours a couple years ago going to the All-Star game and me saying, I don't want him to pitch. And everybody lost their mind on me. But I will tell you that in his short 3-year career, Jeff Carr, Andrew Abbott's not pitched in more than 25 games. He's been in 11 thus far. I would like for him to have a nice little break at home during the All-Star break and not pitch in that game. I'm selfish. I want him available in October. And the way that works is he doesn't pitch in the All-Star game.
I agree. And I think it'll be interesting to see because at least as far as qualified statistics, which you have to have pitched a certain amount of time, he doesn't qualify yet for, leaders in WAR and whatnot. But if you look at it, if you take off the qualification, Andrew Abbott is still 19th in the National League in WAR. So he has been amazing for the Reds, but at the same time, there's still some pitchers that are above him. I think he might get overlooked because if he'd have pitched more, Paul Skeens, Logan Webb, Mackenzie Gore, they've all thrown 15 games.
No, also, you and I are going to be on here if he doesn't get picked going, that Dave Roberts, what a tremendous snub.
Hey,
how do you not take Andrew Abbott? He should be pitching in this game.
Easy complaint. But yeah, I think it's going to be interesting to see if the Reds get in multiple people because I was hoping Elly would get voted in. I wonder if he picks 2 or if
the
Reds get kind of
choose the max. He won't pick more than 2.
No, he won't pick more than 2.
He won't pick more. Here, this from Debbie Brown also. Debbie, you're on a roll. You're reading my mind today. I can't wait to hear what Jeff has to say about this. Elly needs to stay out of the home run derby.
Fine. It doesn't mean anything. I've been fine with him not being in the home run derby in these past couple of years, and they were begging him to both years, and he said no. So
I think Debbie is absolutely right. Elly should stay out of the home run derby. Here's why. Everybody that's ever done that thing has given interviews that says, and I'm talking about the guys that play all of the rounds and go to the finals. Everybody that's ever done that has said their arms have hurt for weeks. Not just a day or two, for weeks. I want Elly nowhere near that. Nowhere near it. Let's just let him play in the All-Star game. I'm fine with that. Let's not screw with his power by giving him dead arm for a week and a half coming out of the All-Star break. Let's let him play the game.
Good at the plate. Let's not
stay out of the home run. Let's not mess that up. Stay out of the home run derby. Let's see here. Yeah, Luke says Elly would win it. He would win it. I agree, which is why I don't want him in it because I don't want to. Ronnie says home run derby screws up batters. It absolutely does. I think we're talking about Andrew Abbott here from Ginger. Do we think if he doesn't play in the All-Star game, it will hurt his chances at winning a Cy Young if his stats stay elite? I don't think the two things correlate. We don't vote on pitchers. So I don't think so. My answer is I don't think so.
No.
If Andrew Abbott has the best stats in the league or close to them at the end, he'll be in the Cy Young conversation. That's just how the Cy Young works. That one's usually a little bit more spot on than some of the other awards. Don't get me started on Gold Gloves. Don't get me started on some other things. But MVP voting, for example, Joey got robbed still. But Cy Young is usually pretty spot on, Jeff. I don't think it hurts.
No, and I think that maybe even another point to I'm okay with Andrew Abbott not going to the All-Star game is that we need to see him be consistent in August and September because that's been his biggest bugaboo early on in his career. Is he going to be this guy in August and September? Then yeah, we're talking about Cy Young. It's not going to have anything to do with him making the All-Star game or not.
The Reds have just recalled from AAA Louisville Luis May and placed on the injured list retroactive to 6/16 right-handed pitcher Graham Ashcraft with a right groin strain.
Interesting.
I guess that's better than an inflamed ERA. I don't know. And what's
I've
going
wondered a
on with
little
these
bit.
groins? What's happening?
Yeah, really. I've been holding on to this because I haven't wanted to discuss Graham Ashcraft just yet, but man, he has remained a super inconsistent pitcher. It's now just in smaller bite-sized pieces, as opposed to being a inconsistent starter. He's an inconsistent reliever. So I kind of wonder, I think this is probably just a break, right? Like to get him a little bit, get him feeling a little bit better and not as fatigued, but it just kind of feels like he's that guy that, man, one outing, he's going to strike out the side. And then the next outing, he's going to give up 3 or 4 runs. And that used to be in multiple innings. Now it's just in one inning.
And maybe his inconsistency over the last few weeks, maybe he has been dealing with something and it's just, I don't know. I'd like to give him the benefit of the doubt because I still think he profiles as a pretty good reliever once he gets it all figured out. But groins, what is happening, Jeff? Like what? You want to speculate?
Nope.
Nope. Staying away from that one. Are we? Okay. That's
not going to happen on that one. But no, I'm happy that Luis May's back though. Let's see some power. I was really hoping you said that they were recalling Reese Hines.
Neil Harris says he was at the game on Sunday. Comerica isn't as fan friendly as Great American. Listen, I'm biased about GABP. I love that ballpark. As a kid that grew up in Riverfront Stadium, getting to go to GABP is a treat. Now, look, I love Riverfront Stadium, so don't listen, Gen Xers, don't come at me. I love it just like you do. But we have a big, shiny, beautiful ballpark that looks at the river now, and it's great. I love GABP. Been to games in Detroit. Everybody has their jokes about Detroit. Everybody has their negative things to say about Detroit. That ballpark's not as good as GABP. I agree. But also, they do a pretty good job. They have revitalized at least that little pocket of Detroit. All the stadiums are down there in one place. There's a theater down there. I had a good time in Detroit. But if in the power rankings, let's do that. In the power rankings, Jeff, I rate GABP ahead of Comerica. You've been to Comerica, haven't you?
I have not been to Comerica.
You have not?
It's definitely on the list to go. Yeah.
I had a great time there. I got to hang out with Chris Welsh some. That was one of the ballparks where I got to hang out in the booth for a while. So I got a unique view of the field and the game going on. That was
right.
I enjoyed that ballpark. I really did. It's not even probably in my top 5, but it was fine. It was a good time. I had a good time. GABP though, I don't know that I can rationally rate very many ballparks ahead of GABP. San Francisco is probably the one that I don't know if there's another ballpark out there that's going to beat San Francisco for me as far as ballparks go. I haven't been to Pittsburgh yet. Everybody says Pittsburgh's amazing from a ballpark experience standpoint. I'm going to try and work that in, if not this year, next year. But San Francisco is the only one that really just leaps out in my mind and says better than GABP.
Yeah, I have thought about San Francisco quite a bit ever since going there. That was an amazing stadium with amazing food. I liked PNC. It's fine. I got the fries on sandwiches. I didn't get Manny Sanguine's barbecue, which I am told that I did that incorrectly. So I'll fix that next time I go. But I really like that. I really like San Diego. That's a great stadium. But I'm with you. I think it's really hard for me to pick over Great American Ballpark. San Francisco, and I did like Wrigley, but I had an amazing experience there where I got a free hot dog. So it's really hard for me to.
It's all about the food for you, isn't it? Was there? You don't even know if there was a game when you were there. You just know that there was food.
Hey, the Cubs were on the field, and so were the Giants. Yep, that was Chris Bryant's second game back in Chicago. So, yeah, but that was a good hot dog. Yeah.
This from Alexander. He's put this in the chat several times, and so let's. Okay, Alexander. Here we go. He wants it to, when Stevenson homers, he wants us to call it a Steve Jobs because he's angling for the Reds to get an Apple partnership, presumably so we can go sign somebody, I would hope. Listen, if we can create deals for the Reds and Castellini will sign a binding contract that says he'll spend every dollar on player payroll, I'm in. I'll call this team I'll call every homer, whatever you want me to call it, in order to get the Reds to sign some guys. Steve Jobs.
If you call a guy by the deceased former owner of a company, does that company then sign up with you?
I don't know, but I get what Alexander's throwing down. He wants to bring in some money, Jeff. He wants to bring in some money.
I like that idea.
You know, he does his here it is. He does his job, right? Just, oh boy. Ronnie says
has
for
been
me,
quietly consistent though. I've been happy with that.
Ronnie Snyder, for me, Riverfront will always be the best simply because of the magic that the Reds had there. Yeah, people hate it, but the only thing big in GABP was the All-Star game. Also true. I mean, I wasn't there for Clinchmas. Jeff, you were there for Clinchmas. I was in the stadium for the home run derby with Todd Frazier, and that was as electric as that building's ever been. It's the only time I've been in the ballpark and felt it move with the fan reaction when Frazier hit that home run. The stadium was actually swaying. So you're not wrong. You're not wrong, Ronnie. You know, Riverfront Stadium was the home of the Big Red Machine, the home of 3 World Series wins. It's always going to be a special place for me. It's my first big league game was at Riverfront Stadium. And to this day, you know, I still remember what that field looked like through, you know, 4-year-old Steve's eyes. That green AstroTurf was the most amazing color green I'd ever seen in my life. I had the experiences of trying to sneak past the ushers in the blue seats. I had the experiences of, you know, jumping the rubber gaskets between the stadiums, playing that game out on the concourse. I love Riverfront Stadium for all the reasons you should love Riverfront Stadium. And none of those reasons have to do with it being an amazing ballpark, because it wasn't. It's the memories that were in the stadium, right? GABP, on the other hand, I love that stadium because it's a great stadium and my team is there, but they haven't given me those great memories per se. The ones that jump out at me, Jeff, I don't know about you, but, you know, GABP, it's like I was there for the very first game, the very first opening day. That sticks with me as a memory, just as game 1. Getting to be there for that, being there for Elly's debut, being there for Frazier's home run derby, being there, you know, for some opening day walk-off action, those kind of things. Those are the games that stick with me because Ronnie's right. The Reds haven't given us anything else to link with the history and the lore of the stadium, right? And I hope they change that. I hope that's coming.
Yeah, they don't compare on vibes. Like, it's mostly just based on what they are as baseball stadiums, what they offer to fans and things like that. But yeah, vibes, Riverfront way ahead of any stadium that the Reds have ever had. And it's way ahead of most stadiums that other teams have and things like that. Yeah, like Tom Seaver no hitter.
Tom Seaver's no hitter. Also, Tom Browning's perfect game.
Alive. Like, I get it. I do understand that, yes, there were far more better memories of the Reds in general a long, long time ago. And the memories of the Reds now don't compete with that because they haven't been very memorable in the last 30 years. And I would add to the memory book of Great American Ballpark, the beginning of the Aroldis Chapman era, the Aroldis Chapman experience. I thought that was a lot of fun. Every time he came out of the bullpen, the entire stadium, whether you're down on the field or you're up in the third deck, stood up to watch him try and hit 100 miles an hour on the radar gun. That was a lot of fun. But no, obviously the vibes do not compare.
Let's get a few more in. This is fun. Lucifer's Lair says went to 2 games at Crosley. Now that I wish I could have done. Yes. 2 games at Crosley before they moved. I was born in 77, so Crosley was long gone. Lucifer says Crosley definitely had its charm. Parking in people's front yards. I would have loved. I don't know if it was like this at the end, but there's pictures of, you know, people on the field in that right field corner. During games. I would have loved to. So basically,
way back when that was in the 40 World Series. Yeah.
Picture GABP, like the bow tie bar was on the field. Can you imagine how many times would you and I have gotten kicked out of this? Like, we would have been in trouble, Jeff.
What was it? It was early on, and I think this was during the World Series, but the fans were considered in play. And I don't think it was a dead ball if the ball went into the fans. They just had to clear out so that the fielder could go get it. Yeah, that was like super long time ago. But could you imagine it being Game 7 of the World Series and the Reds are facing the Yankees and Aaron Judge just hit a bouncing ball into the corner and everybody's got to move out of the way so that Will Benson could run over, grab that, and try and throw it back into the infield? Like, that'd be hilarious.
That would be, I would have loved that. Like make a throwback game where you tweak the dimensions to mirror the former ballparks and just let people be down in the right field corner. I would love that. That would be a lot of fun. Let's take one more before we get out of here. And we're going to make it non-baseball. It's way back up. I'm not going to go find it, but the question was for you, and it's, will the Pacers get to Game 7?
Yes, because I said that they can't because we're driving on the road on Sunday, so I can't watch Game 7. So yeah, they're going to get to Game 7.
Are you honestly going to tell me that if there's a Game 7, you're not going to stop at some brewery somewhere along the way and watch that game?
Probably we'll watch it like in the hotel, like once because we're going down to South Carolina on Sunday, but we've got to be there at a certain time, so it's not as if we can push back our departure.
I'm pretty sure you're going to be stopped at a roadside bar. That's what I predict. All right, that is going to do it, folks. Thanks so much for being here, joining us in the comments and the questions. This is my favorite part of what we do, is talking to you guys directly. I love it. Thank you so much for being so engaged, so interactive. Can't wait till we do it again next time. We will be back in your feeds tomorrow, breaking down the first game of this Twins series that can do a lot for the Reds, as we told you earlier. Make sure you're subscribed, click that like button, tell your friends, help your grandparents, log on to YouTube, whatever it takes, get the show out to everybody. We love talking Reds baseball. We love talking Reds baseball with you. Until next time, we'll keep gathering up the news, the notes, the rumors, and the information, and we'll bring it right back here to keep you locked on Reds every single day.
I mean, no other stadium in the country has 50 West and Frybox in the same stadium, so obviously Great American way above everybody else.
I it's all about the food. You crack me up. San Diego has good tacos.